Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in for Big Beer Friday this week. This is Greg from Fizzics. I'm a professional brewer and certified Cicerone, and I'm here at Woodfield Hopyards in Colts Neck, New Jersey, joined by Rob Kilbride, the owner and farmer himself. And we're gonna show you a look at this beautiful place we have here. We've got a gorgeous day. We have some early stage hop rhizomes just starting to bud and get trained up on their trellises here. So we're gonna have Rob talk more details along that line, and we're gonna give you a tour of this hop yard after we do a little brief interview. We're gonna drink some fresh hoppy beers, and if you have any questions for Rob or myself pertaining to hops or physics, beer, whatever you come up with, go ahead and type them in the comment section. We'll try to answer them throughout the video, or at the end we'll give you another chance to ask your question as well. Alright, so before we get into any questions, we got some cold beers here, so we might as well crack one first, put it through the physics system. The first one that we've got, can zoom in on that, we've got Cane Sneak Box, and down the bottom you can read that it was canned on June 1st, which was yesterday. I picked it up fresh from the brewery, which is just about 20 minutes from here, so we are super local, and actually Cane is one of the breweries that Rob supplies with some of their hops, so keeping it New Jersey, keeping it local. Sneak Box, it's an American Pale Ale, and it's 5.4 ABV. Some cool artwork here. This beer was originally called Hop Lab Citra, so they kind of do like an experimental, we had to have one to warm up. They had a kind of an experimental hoppy beer series going where they would just kind of change the hops a little bit, and this one was so popular that they gave it a name, Sneak Box, and now they're packaging it, so that's awesome.
That was the Citra Hop Lab, right?
Yep,
So
Citra Hop Lab, you remember that one?
Yep, I do. It's one of the favorites.
Yeah, I had a sip yesterday at the brewery, and it was extremely fresh, which is very important for these hoppier beers.
Sir?
Let's zoom in on a pour. So what are you getting on the aroma for that one there? Hoppy goodness?
Yeah, it definitely brings it out.
So we're topping it off here with micro foam, and the goal there is to release some of the more volatile aroma compounds, which in this case is a lot of hop oils. And we got somebody who knows quite a bit about hops here. First of all, for our viewers, maybe we can give them a close-up view of what some hops actually look like. So let's grab a handful, and we can zoom in up close there. Oh, nice.
See that?
So explain a little bit about what we're looking at here. They look like little green pine cones.
They do. These are dried cones from last year's harvest. These are Nugget variety. We grow two varieties here, Nugget and Cascade. These are all dried out, so when they first are harvested, they're just fresh off the plant. They have a lot more greenness to them. Then you dry them, you lose about 90% of the water weight out of them, and then that makes them storable. So these kept over the year. I had them vacuum packed in a nice cool place, no light if you want to store them. You kind of see inside here there's a lot of yellow, almost a powdery substance. It's called lupulin. That's kind of the active ingredient in the hops. That's what creates the oils and the acids that the brewers are looking for. Different varieties, different levels of those, mostly from the content of that lupulin, how much or how little lupulin is in the variety.
And there's quite a bit of variance. There's probably, would you say, hundreds of different strains, and there's always some being developed.
Yeah, there's new ones coming out all the time. I mean, your expertise is the brewing side of it. I mean, I know how they grow. As far as which hops bring what to the beer, I defer to your expert opinion for that. For me, I know the process basically from getting them in the ground, getting them to ripeness, and then harvesting them.
So what did you get into first? Kind of agriculture, or did you have like a love for beer and you wanted to grow something? And
well, it's a little bit of both. I mean, I grew up here on this farm. Farming was kind of in my blood a little bit. My first job was across the street at the apple and peach orchard. And coming back from college every year, I would work on a farm. I lived out of state for a long time, and I moved back here you know, it was kind of at the time where craft beer was kind of exploding in New Jersey, and there's also sort of this push for locally sourced ingredients. So I thought, you know, I was kind of looking for something to grow, and I just figured, you know, experimentally, let's give this a shot. And you know, 5 years ago, I planted the first rhizomes out here. It's been quite a process. Every year is a new set of curveballs that I have to kind of deal with, and it's learning something new every year about how to, you know, what to watch out for. There's a lot of different species of bugs that will invade your hop yard and try to eat them. There's some other, you know, sort of microorganisms like fungus and stuff that will also become a challenge.
Yeah, it's not as easy as just putting it in the ground and waiting. There's a lot that goes into it. It can be a very time consuming, and you learn a lot when working with them. And you mentioned, why don't you talk about the harvest party that you do each year?
Okay, so that's the hardest thing about hops really is harvesting them. It's a very labor intensive process, and without commercial equipment, which is just large scale stuff and too expensive really for someone like me to purchase, the harvest has to be done all by hand. So the hops will grow on a long vine up a string, and then it grows kind of side branches will grow these cones on them, and really the only way to get them off, you know, cleanly is to pick them by hand. So what we do is we throw a party every year on Labor Day weekend. I'll cut down all the hops, bring them up, we'll have food and beer and bounce houses for the kids, and just get a lot of people over basically as volunteers, free labor, you know, I guess you could call it.
Turn it into a little party.
Yeah, it's a little party. So we
yeah.
feed them, you know, give them beers and let them help out for a while, and that's how we get the harvest done. It's really kind of the only way we can do it. I was thinking about maybe fabricating some kind of harvester, but you know, just with the time and money, it just hasn't happened yet. But
well, we got
in the future.
Cascade and Nugget here, so if there's any small local breweries, I know there's a lot popping up in Monmouth County and elsewhere in the state, and home brewers, if you want to get some Cascade hops, there's no fresher way to get them than drive a few minutes, come pick them up when they're wet, and throw them for your August wet hop ale. Or
come to the harvest party, and you can pick as many as you want for yourself. You know, just take them home, and then you have a good story. You know, I made this beer with hops I picked.
Speaking of making the beer with hops that you picked, we do have a very popular beer in the New Jersey area that a lot of you watching might have heard of. It's called Head High, and you have sold some hops to Kane before for this beer. So this is a very popular, like if there's one beer that I'm happy to see locally on tap when I go somewhere, it's Head High, because I know it's going to be delicious.
It is one of the best.
Yeah,
definitely one of my local favorites. Yeah, Mike Kane and I have done a little collaboration for. He's done a couple of different brews with locally harvested hops for myself and some other growers. He's on a big enough scale where, you know, hopefully he can really take a large amount of them at one shot and brew with them wet, which is kind of ideal because they're coming fresh from the vine. So basically, I would deliver them first thing in the morning, the day after the harvest party, to him, and they will, you know, basically start brewing with them right away. So we have to kind of coordinate the harvest with his brew schedule and get all that kind of worked out ahead of time. Hopefully this year we'll have another one in the works.
Right on. We'll be there.
One of the other things that we've done, actually, and it's kind of picking up if anyone's getting married this year, is people are using the hop vines for decorating either the wedding arch or some of the church pews or wedding bouquets. I brought a big batch of them up last year right after harvest for a friend of mine who was getting married in Newport. So I think I have some pictures of that up on either Instagram or Facebook, but it's kind of a cool thing that's, you know, so many people are into the craft beer that they're actually putting it as part of their wedding now. I've
seen those. It's great decoration in like outdoor beer gardens and inside of cool like beer centric bars, just to see them, you know, super dried out and even getting brown, but just hanging from like the rafters, kind of give you that like old world European, like you're in a beer cellar drinking beer theme.
Yeah.
It's a nice touch.
Absolutely. So if you're getting married and you want some hop vines for your wedding, just let me know.
And the best way to reach
before the harvest.
The best way to reach is they have a Facebook page if you search Woodfield Hopyard, and also they're on Instagram. I think it's like Woodfield Hopyard 01, something like that. You'll find them. We actually have it tagged in a post. And we're probably gonna shoot some longer video here, and we'll kind of do a tour around the hop yard. Rob's gonna explain a little bit about how you start to string up the hops and what goes in with the process, all the steps going up to harvest. We're gonna have a full unedited video or unclipped video we're gonna put on our YouTube page. If you just search on YouTube at Fizzics Group or just Fizzics Group, it'll pop right up, and look for a full video there. But I think, is there any other messages you want to get out to any of the breweries or watchers out there right now?
No, I don't think so. I don't know if anybody's got any questions. Can they do that live?
Let's see, do we have any questions coming through? Might not have caught them while they were coming up.
I think, you know, just a quick rundown on hops. They're a perennial plant, so once they're in, they come back every year. I like to try to train them a little later, just to try to gear them toward being harvested later when my harvest party is. The challenge is kind of timing them so they get ripe at the right time. So I cut them all the way back to the crown once, and they've grown back now to, you know, 2 to 3 foot long. And now we'll trim them up, get them trained up the lines, ready to go. So,
what's the most growth you've seen in a short amount of time? Has there any been crazy, like it grew a foot in 2 days?
It's
like...
incredible. They will grow a foot in a day.
Wow.
Once they get about 6 feet off the ground, and you get into like late June, early July, they are just really growing fast. I mean, you can almost watch them grow. That's how quick they're growing.
And if you want to get an idea of how big these get and what they look like when the vines are fully roped up, check out the Facebook page. There's a lot of great photos out there. It's massive and it looks gorgeous.
It does.
So yeah, got a beautiful little yard here. A lot of places to expand. So if you local breweries want to get some local hops,
yeah, tell me what variety you want. We'll put them in next spring.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
About to start some bonus footage here at the Woodfield Hopyard. This is the owner and hop farmer himself, Rob Kilbride. We just did a Big Beer Friday episode. You can check that out on our Facebook page. And this is going to be the full video where we're going to walk you through some of the steps of how to grow hops. I'll let Rob take it from here.
Okay, so hops is a perennial plant which grows like a vine. In the hop rows here, I have spread out 3 foot apart the crowns of the plants. Okay, so these will come back every year and grow these shoots, and they're a climbing shoot. They want to go up something. So what we do is we built a trellis, which you can see here. We've got some large black locust poles in the ground, some cable, pretty strong cable that we use to raise up above, and then we use this core yarn, which is made from coconut fiber, which the hop really gets a good grab on so it can grow up. So we basically tie all these on. I've kind of got a system here where I can lower the lines down, which makes it easier to tie them on. So you can kind of see down the row here, I've been tying a bunch of these strings to the line, and eventually I'll just raise it up. So what I do is kind of like just a quick slip knot on here, tighten that up so that it won't come off, but it won't snag too tight, hopefully, so that I can give it a little slide once we raise it up, so I can get them perfectly positioned kind of right above the plant so they grow vertically. That way they get maximum amount of sunshine throughout the day. So we're just going to keep tying those on, and then when we get down to the end of the line, we'll raise them all up. All right? Awesome. So if we're looking up, they're going this way. So whatever that is.
I guess that's
counterclockwise. If you're looking up. If you're looking down, it's clockwise.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's a labor of love here. It's a lot of time. It's made a lot of sense to me to make these, lines come down where I can do this on the ground rather than trying to get up in some kind of cherry picker. Because it goes up so high, or 16, 18 feet off the ground, obviously it's a little more dangerous and harder to deal with, especially on a windy day like today. Hops is a very prolific plant. It will grow just tons of these shoots out of the crown, and they're like, each one of them can be a climbing vine. So what we do eventually when we string them up is we just select a few that are similar in size, and we'll train them up the line. But these will keep growing throughout the season like this, so even as the plant gets very tall, we'll have to constantly come back every couple of weeks and trim the leaves and the extra shoots off the bottom so that you can get some good airflow under there to prevent any kind of disease. Take them out.
The bad ones.
all
like
the way
that other
down.
garbage.
As low as you can get.
Take them out of there.
I mean, you couldn't even technically stick it
Oh.
out. So,
These things have a lot of grit.
Yeah.
For,
they do.
combined with that coconut wire, it's probably just like
and when you're trimming them,
Velcro.
you know, when they get bushy and you're trimming them and they get you, I mean, they really kind of tear you up.
You have your gloves, your trusty gloves.
Yeah. Battle scars. Okay, so now we're going to use this handy dandy little tool here to fasten the twine into the ground so it's secure for the plant to grow up. This is what's called a W clip, which I've got a bucket full of here. Can't imagine why it's called a W clip. Anyway, the way this works is the W clip goes in the end of this tool, just like that. And then what we can do is take the, we want to get close to the crown of the plant. You can see the plant growing here. So what I'll do is put this over the twine, set it here, and plant it down in the ground. And that W clip holds it in place.
Now, if you don't have that thing, can you use a shovel? Or
Not with W clips. The first year I had sort of like long metal staples that I tied off to. And I found out about this thing.
so like what you
100%
keep
better.
your Christmas ornaments in, those like hooks, right? Maybe.
Christmas ornaments?
Well, not ornaments. The you know, the front lawn things. The when you're like trying to keep
like
them in
the
the ground.
Sand and the reindeer in the front
yeah,
yard.
yeah, those things. No.
I don't know, like a regular stake? Is it like a
It's
tent
like
stake?
kind of like a stake that has a hook.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe
You
something
could
like
use that, I suppose. These are pretty readily accessible on the internet. This tool wasn't really expensive, and those clips you can get them, you know, about, I don't know, 5,000 of them, and they're not very expensive. But
Okay.
so once we get the plant in here, I'll usually come through and trim off the extra of this, and then we have the growing shoots here. So now we can train them up the vine. This one's no good.
Pick the top 3 of the same kind of length and with tops
Yeah.
that haven't been compromised.
Right, and I'm actually kind of, you know, a lot of them this year, I think I'm just going to do one, kind of as an experiment, to see how they do with just one on there. So what we'll do is just wrap it basically counterclockwise on the vine, get it started, just like that, and this little growing shoot will take over. So
Amazing.
every night that kind of releases from that, grows, finds its place back, you know, and the next day it'll be up here. You know, it just really starts taking off and it just keeps climbing up. And then it, you know, eventually it does what we call topping out at the top. And when it reaches the top, it sort of automatically knows that it can't go any higher. So it starts growing side branches. And that's what will really start producing first the flowers, which we call burr. It looks like burr. When they start out, they're just kind of like a fuzzy little circular thing. Looks like a burr. And then they eventually develop into a cone. So.
And you're always taking the bottom leaves off, or just in the beginning?
I strip the first couple leaves off the bottom, and as the plant gets taller and taller, I like to keep about 1.5 to 2 feet from the ground clear of bottom leaves. And the reason for that is just to create some airflow underneath the plant. If you allow too much plant material on the bottom, it'll stay wet throughout the day and just be more susceptible to diseases like downy mildew diseases.
That would be a great time lapse. Just have like a camera here. It's like you say, some days you can get like a foot of growth and just kind of see this thing like find its way up. And do you ever have to like
Pretty cool.
retrain him clockwise if he ever gets off track, or her actually?
What's kind of funny is once in a while you'll see this little growing shoot will get, basically it will strangle itself in the twine. And it finds one of these little loops. Sometimes it'll get caught in there, and I'll come back and the vine will be trying to grow and it'll just be stunted by being caught. Sometimes you can kind of free it and let it go again, or it may just end up dying, but sometimes they do kind of get caught.
So you gotta keep your eye on 'em.
Got to keep your eye on them.